Yo! Gotta sell you on this archetype. So, it spends all of its resources in order to make a really powerful monster in the extra monster zone.
You mean like Adignister? I'll pass.
With the right setup, the monster in the EMZ can't be affected by your opponent's card effects.
Yeah, like Adignister, I'll pass.
And if you have enough extenders, you also get a couple of negates of your own.
You're describing Adignister, I'll pass.
One more thing. The monsters are all waifus.
Go on.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Sorry for the lull in your regularly scheduled 10-minute programming, but I've been waiting for something to catch my attention. Thankfully, it has, as the new legendary Duelists Duelist of the Deep pack trickles support to the 3 or 4 good water archetypes in this game's history. I figured it'd be a good time to reflect on one of the sussiest archetypes of all time, Marincess. So here's the list. I've adapted this from one of the decks that topped the Italian national tournament, just switched the main deck mine out for a third Nibiru. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the pack opening website that everyone is using for their progression series, but you might have missed it's also got a deck builder, a card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. I personally use it to post the Chalice Slime monthly deck breakdowns, so give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now let's mess with Marincess. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, the two entertainment duelists, Go Onizuka and Sky Zaizen, start their journey with meta-relevant decks in Goki and Trickstar. Then after a midlife crisis, they switch to Dino Wrestler and Marincess. Why coming of age means playing a terrible deck, I'll never know, though I guess that's maybe why I like Hero so much. Anyway, Sky's deck seemed promising. These Cyberse-type water monsters had a lot in common with the then-dominant Salamangreat, a repeatable resource loop in Seahorse, and a series of powerful trap cards like Wave. Truly, all the deck needed was a direction, and it was poised to overpower the meta. Except it never got one. There were a few more waves of support, but mostly they just amounted to more effective ways to link climb into an extremely fragile end boss. Stopping the normal summon was enough to snag these Cyberses, until now. 2 new main deck monsters built for extension, a second powerful spell to search with Sea Angel, out of archetype extenders in Abyss Shark and Silent Angler, and a link for actually worth making in Aqua Argonaut have finally made the deck worth considering. It occupies the same metagame space as Adignister, an extremely robust series of monsters dead set on filling the extra monster zone with a hard-to-remove baddie. But this one rounds things out with a totally awesome and a searchable impermanence as well. Plus, they're cute. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, 3 copies of Marincess Seahorse, the card that previously made the deck tick. This card can be special summoned to a zone of Marincess Link monster points to once per turn, and during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to special a water monster from your hand to a zone your Marincess Link monster points to. This is a very powerful card. In the past, it was used as your normal summon to go into a blue slug, add back the Seahorse, special the Seahorse to a link point, go into a Coral Anemone, summon back the Seahorse, link the Seahorse and the Coral Anemone into a Marbled Rock, add back the Seahorse, and prep for next turn as well. This is still a very good line, but it is now supported by many additional monsters, including Marincess Blue Tang, or MBT. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Marincess monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if it's sent to the graveyard for the material of a Link Water monster, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck and add a Marincess card to your hand. The card you're usually sending is this one, Marincess Spring Girl. This card's fantastic. You can banish a Marincess monster from your graveyard, special it from your hand to any zone, and if it's sent to the graveyard as material for the link summon of a water monster, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of Marincesses you control, and if you hit a Marincess card, you do 200 damage to your opponent for each Marincess card sent. That's right, the deck, like all modern decks, needs a way to win in time. After that, we've got 1 copy of Marincess Sleepy Maiden. She just like me for real! This card is interesting. It's a free special summon, which is very important, but it's not level 4, which which means you can't use it to go into Sea Angel or Blue Slug. Importantly, it protects a Marincess card you control, and with no other way to protect Battle Ocean, it's usually part of an end board. We're also playing one copy of Pascalis. This card could go up to 2 or 3. It's just a Goblinberg. On normal or special, you can special a Marincess from your hand in defense position, and then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to target a Marincess spell trap and put it back in your hand. Just getting more material on board is good, and this is a great way to do it. Speaking of, Abyss Shark, a new card from the new set. If this card is used for the Xyz summon of a number, it can be a 3 or 4 monster, important for the number 4 Shark Kragan. And if all monsters you control are water, you can special this from your hand, then add a level 3, 4, or 5 fish monster from your deck to your hand. Now, importantly, this does lock you into water monsters, and importantly, these monsters are not fish, which means you have to play 2 copies of Silent Angler, but it's completely fine to do so, as long as this is the last thing you're summoning, so you can continue to summon Marincesses from your grip, like Spring Girl and Seahorse. After that, we have a bevy of hand traps, 3 Droll and Lockbird, I love it this format, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Nibiru. For spells, we've got 3 Marincess Dive, new card, PogChamp, activate one of the following effects. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for water monsters. You can target a non-link Marincess in your graveyard, special summon it, and if a Battle Ocean is in your field zone, special a Marincess monster from your deck. It rewards you for already having the Battle Ocean and being able to search this off of the Sea Angel instead. Battle Ocean, of course, is integral to most of the deck's plays. It says when you link summon a Marincess monster to the EMZ, you can equip up to 3 Marincess link monsters with different names from your graveyard to that link summoned monster, and monsters in the EMZ that were link summoned using a Marincess Crystal Heart is unaffected by anything your opponent's cards are doing. After that, we've got 3 Signet Mining, 2 Desires, so important for this deck, a Called By and a Reborn. We're playing 3 Infib and 1 Wave. The other Italian Nationals deck that was playing Marincess was on 3 Wave. It is an impressively powerful card, but I was swayed by the argument of the second player, which was, if you ever search Wave, you are winning the game. In the extra, we've got 1 copy of Sea Angel, 2 copies of Blue Slug, 1 copy of Crystal Heart, terrible individual card, but great with Battle Ocean up, 2 Coral Anemone. This is an unbelievably strong card, and thank goodness for the reprint because it was very expensive. New card in Marincess Coral Triangle allows you to send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard to add a Marincess trap from deck to hand. Often you're sending an Angler, you searched off an Abyss Shark, one of the various ways in which that card is so good for this deck. Marbled Rock, of course, is still in here in order to make powerful plays going second, in order to just be an end boss that recycles your material to put more monsters on board, etc. Aqua Argonaut is the 4 that I find myself going into the most frequently. While it's in the EMZ, your opponent's monsters can't attack anyone but this, and once per turn, you can target a water monster you control and a card your opponent controls, bounce them, and during your opponent's turn, when a spell trap card or effect is activated on the field, special one of your Marincess monster cards equipped to this card, and if you do, negate that activated effect. After that, we've got 1 copy of Great Bubble Reef. This is your other 4. Once per turn during each standby phase, you can banish a water from the graveyard to draw a card. If you are light on interaction, this is a great one to make. It's kind of a discount Heat Soul, and each time a monster is banished face up, this card gains 600 attack for each until the end of the turn. You can send a water from your hand to the graveyard to special summon a banished Marincess monster, which happens quite frequently in a deck that also includes Spring Girl. Finally, we are playing a Splash Mage, who is water, an Area, who is also water, and then a Stealth Kragan, a Bahamut Shark, and a Toad. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Branded. That's right, our first match is up against Branded. As you can see by our opener, this is one of those decks. You're just aiming to open 2 hand traps plus your linear line, which we have. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Branded Opening, and when they pitch the polymerization, I realize this is a stinker. They're going to trigger the effect of Luber, we will infip, and they'll reveal they had the fusion all along. And I'll reveal the Ash Blossom. They'll pass turn, and we should be able to, if not clean it up here, get into a position where our opponent can possibly take it back. We'll go for Silent Mining to get a Blue Tang, and then we're going to normal summon the Pascalis. We're going to special the Blue Tang from our hand, then we'll activate the effect of the Blue Tang in order to send a Spring Girl. We'll make Blue Slug here, which can add the Spring Girl back. Then we'll trigger the Blue Tang, finding off the top. Nothing! Get used to that, by the way. We'll go ahead and make a Sea Angel. We'll use her effect in order to get a Battle Ocean to hand, and then we'll activate Abyss Shark here, summoning itself and adding a Silent Angler to hand. We'll go Coral Anemone with the Abyss Shark, summoning back the Blue Tang, and then we're going to make a Coral Triangle. Now, because we have an additional monster in our hand off of the Coral Anemone, we're going to pitch it for the Coral Triangle, then activate Spring Girl, summoning her, and then summoning the Silent Angler as well. This allows us to go into Bahamut Shark, summon a Toad, and then link off the Bahamut Shark and the Spring Girl in order to make Crystal Heart. We'll go for Battle Ocean and Aqua Argonaut, and then we will activate the effect of the Battle Ocean, load up our Argonaut, and get in for 43 with a Marincess Wave in hand and a Toad on field. Our opponent's going to go for the Despia Theater of the Branded, then fire off a Branded Fusion, which we will negate, and they'll just pass turn once again. We'll draw for turn and figure there's no reason to drag this one out. Let's just clean it up. While the deck has undergone a radical transformation since the last time we took a look at it, a lot of its old weaknesses still persist. This is very evident in our game versus Sky Striker. Our opponent has opened very poorly. This is not where you want to be. They're going to begin with a copy of Fusion Destiny, sending a Celestial from hand, activating multi-roll, setting a Widow Anchor, and passing turn. We draw for turn. We'll activate a Signet Mining, pitching a Spring Girl to go for a Blue Tang. We're going to normal summon this Blue Tang and activate the effect. Calling upon matchup knowledge of Yor, they're going to pop our normal summon. We'll resolve the Blue Tang, they'll resolve the DPE, and we'll summon Spring Girl. From here, we can go into a Blue Slug, activate the Blue Slug, targeting the Seahorse. They will Widow Anchor. That's a little too late because we also have the Sleepy Maiden in grip. We will summon the Sleepy Maiden, and this is full combo. We can make a Coral Anemone here, bringing back this copy of Seahorse, which we can use to go into Sea Angel, grabbing ourselves a copy of the Battle Ocean. From here, we can make a Crystal Heart, trigger the Coral Anemone to get back the Seahorse, special the Sea Angler, go into the Ocean, and make Aqua Argonaut. We'll go for Battle Ocean here in order to set 3, and then we will equip to the Aqua Argonaut using the Sleepy Maiden, passing it back to our opponent, who goes ahead and resets this copy of Widow Anchor. Now, here is the dilemma. Without the Battle Ocean on field, this monster is susceptible to our opponent's pieces of interaction. So unfortunately, that Widow Anchor is worth a ton right now. The DPE is going to trade for the Battle Ocean. They're going to activate the Hayate, sending a copy of Engage, and then in main phase 2, they're going to make a Kagari, adding the Engage back to the hand. They'll activate Engage, and all they need is something that prompts the Argonaut here. Unfortunately, though, we do have Droll and Lockbird. Afterburners will do it. We'll negate it. They'll chain Widow Anchor, and they'll neglect to take, which means our monster and all of its equipped spells are going to the graveyard. We get to float with Coral Anemone, but this one Seahorse is going to have to do a lot of work here. We draw a Pot of Desires. They go for the Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. We need any extender here, and those don't really do it. With no copies of the Silent Angler in deck, that Abyss Shark is worth less than nothing, and our opponent popping our normal is enough to concede. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Sorta. Okay, so we film these live at twitch.tv/MBT Yu-Gi-Oh! And who should stop by the stream today but Tom Box of MST.TV fame. He's been tinkering with a very powerful Dark World deck that makes use of the new cards that were just revealed, and I thought it would be fun to play a best of 3 versus him. Unfortunately, we are playing Droll and Lockbird main. We're going to hit the Thunderbird, American Sniper, followed by the Nessie. That's going to draw him a card, which means that we are able to activate Droll and Lockbird in response to the snow. That ends the turn, and now we can clean this one up. We're going to go for Spring Girl into Abyss Shark here. That's going to add the Silent Angler to hand, and now we can make the Sea Angel first, triggering the Spring Girl to mill to the graveyard and add a Battle Ocean. From here, we can make Coral Anemone, use that to bring back the Spring Girl, then link off the Spring Girl for a Blue Slug, adding the Spring Girl back. We kind of had to do this weird convoluted way to it, but it did end up working. We're going to go for the Coral Triangle here, pitching the additional copy of the Abyss Shark, then special the Spring Girl, banishing the Link monster, and make ourselves a Bahamut Shark, activate the effect, summon the Toad, activate Battle Ocean, and unfortunately, we weren't able to get into Crystal Heart here, but I prioritized the Toad over it. We'll get in for 2200. We've got an Ash, a Marincess Wave, and a Toad. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Our opponent's going to begin with a Chusinoko and hit the Jackalope. That's going to trigger the Jackalope, which is going to summon an Ogopogo. They're going to go for the Thunderbird, which, I mean, obviously is not going to work. They're going to go for the Pot of Avarice afterwards. Unfortunately for them, we've got an Ash Blossom in our hand, and we'll go to game 2. So it's time for game 2, and wow, last time we drew Droll, and this time we drew Nibiru. This looks pretty unlosable as well. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Bigfoot. We miss into a Silva. That Silva's going to summon itself. Afterwards, we're going to go for a Jackalope. The Jackalope is going to pop this copy of Nessie. They're going to activate the effect of Nessie, and then afterwards, they're going to activate the effect of Mothman, whiffing once again, hitting the Rainbow Retrain. They're going to go for Rainbow here to get a copy of Grapha, and then summon the Rainbow. Afterwards, they'll... Oh, shoot! Oh god, there's a rank 8 that negates monster effects now. Okay, we may be losing this one. I was just gonna fire off the Nibiru at the end of the main phase, but that's rough. They're gonna go for the card destruction here. That's gonna trigger this Saluri and this Grapha and this Silva in sequence. That's gonna allow them to trigger the Saluri on our side of the field, but thankfully, the only monster they have in hand is the Beige. They're gonna go for the Saruya here to bring back the Grapha, then Thunderbird effect, which hits the Thunderbird, Ogopogo, which hits the Ogopogo. God, I am just really sniping these. And then finally the IP Masquerena. Okay, I might actually be able to win this one, though the Infinite Impermanence is off because of the Saluri on our side of the field. We still could make something happen. They're going to pass turn here. We've got Double Dive and Triple Ash Blossom. Jeez, full house. We're going to go ahead and special summon this copy of Blue Tang. We're going to go for Blue Tang. That's going to fiend out the Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, so we can go Blue Slug and then add the Spring Girl. That'll... all right. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and this is going to be a weird one. We have everything we need, the full combo plus additional extenders, but our opponent's deck is entirely extenders, and we really don't put up very many monster negates. So I guess let's see how it ends up. We're going to begin with a copy of MBT, sending a Spring Girl into a blue slug. We'll trigger the effect of the blue slug and the effect of the blue tang, finding off the top. Nothing. Once again, sheesh. Okay, no big deal. We'll get the Spring Girl back. We're going to go into Seahorse, into Sea Angel, into Battle Ocean. This is pretty rote so far. We'll go for the Abyss Shark, and thankfully we still do have a Silent Angler in deck. We'll go for Coral Anemone here in order to summon out the Blue Tang into the Coral Triangle. We can pitch one of these extra Sea Anglers in order to get ourselves a copy of Wave. We'll go Spring Girl here and 2 4s. Where do you think we're going next? Bahamut Shark into Totally Awesome, and then we'll special the Silent Angler, make a Crystal Heart, Battle Ocean, and make an Aqua Argonaut with all the fixins. We've also got the Infinite Impermanence, so this is very many negates, but I don't know how it's going to fare against this much extension. They're going to begin with an Ogopogo. The Chupacabra is a sick hit. They're going to go Moth afterwards, hitting the Nessie. They're going to trigger the Nessie in order to add a copy of Thunderbird. From here, they can go once again into Bigfoot. This Chupacabra does trigger and summons back the Nessie. Thunderbird next, and we miss it for the first time. Okay, so Saluri will summon here, and I figure I actually probably have to Totally Awesome the Rainbow, even though they don't have the zones to summon a monster, just because of theoretically what could happen. They're going to go for Giant Trainer here, which we will Marincess Wave, then normal summon a Beige to go into Dugaris. They'll activate the effect of Dugaris. We will Infinite Impermanence, and I think that should end the turn. Oh, thank God. Okay, we can clean up from here. We draw for turn, and our zones are a little wacky. We can only really summon to the one zone here, the Aqua Argonaut down arrow, so we have to make a Rhea to get this Saluri off our side of the field. And then afterwards, we can activate Aqua Argonaut to bounce that sucker and the Giant Trainer. We can special the Seahorse to go Blue Slug effect to bring back the Spring Girl. We can summon the Spring Girl anywhere, and we should probably go to combat sooner rather than later, just because we don't really have the ability to push through this many monsters. So we'll attack over the board and do 2200 direct, and main phase 2 we can go into a Marbled Rock, use Coral Anemone to get back the Wave, and Marbled Rock to get back the Seahorse for next turn. This should be enough negates to deal with what our opponent is doing. The beginning and the end is a must negate, but we do have the Aqua Argonaut to do so. We'll summon this copy of Coral Anemone, and Tom will concede. So we're back with the deck, and huge shouts out to Tombox. I do not know what I would have done if I wasn't maining Droll and Lockbird. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, wow, this deck is really good at making its Link 4. I mean, obviously, accomplishes its main goal is kind of a prerequisite to considering a deck at all, but it's nice we've cleared that hurdle. It doesn't always happen. 2, you've actually got options. Both Toad and Kragan are extremely good at different things, and being able to move between them and the Marincess links is kind of unmatched. And 3, unlike something like Adagnister, which has to go through significant parts of its extra deck to accomplish its end goal, this deck can threaten the same line every turn by way of Seahorse. And the cons. 1, its end board is very easy to counter. If decks like this and Adagnister start to become too prevalent, it's very possible that Kaijus start showing up in sideboards. And this deck cannot beat that. 2, it sucks that you're losing to both Kaijus and Spell Negation and stuff like Cosmic Cyclone. Battle Ocean is an impressively strong card with literally 0 protection, and people are already prepared to destroy field spells like Mystic Mine or prevent them from being activated in the first place with cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance. And 3, the deck needs to see extenders. It can get to the Link 4 with anything, but just the Link 4 isn't enough to win the game. You need Toad. All in all, I'm impressed by this deck's recent tops and hope to see it make a splash at more events. I just hope it doesn't become so popular that the turtle comes along with it.